Welcome to the Top 10 Gardener with Master Gardener Ken Lain. Gardening can be challenging, but with Ken's tips, tricks, and top 10 advice, you'll reap huge rewards. Now welcome your garden host, Ken Lain.
And welcome to this week's edition of The Mountain Gardener. Your host, Ken Lain, here every week talking about the landscapes of northern Arizona. We are into the peak of the growing season. So this is when things start happening. And I've had a couple customers, more than a handful of folks coming in to saying, oh, Ken, help me out. My tomatoes, they just aren't producing fruit. They're up to size. They look big. They're good. What am I doing wrong? And I don't think it's you. Well, here's what a lot of vegetables don't like. They don't like to be hot. They're just like people. They're just like us. When it gets to be 95 or greater, plants kind of go, ooh, I'm just sweating it out here. I think I'll just take a break here. Just going to hold on. I'm going to wait it out, and I'm going to keep growing in the evening when it's cooler. But during the day, I'm just going to sit here and not do much. And I'm for sure not going to bloom and set fruit and try to take all my resources and try to put fruit on and produce these cucumbers or peppers or tomatoes or eggplant, squash, whatever it is. So they take a break. When the monsoon rains come, that all changes. So my guess is if your tomatoes, your vegetables have not done as well as you wanted, they haven't produced as many fruits as you want, I'm guessing that with the cloud cover, it produces shade. And so plants go, oh, finally. It's like having an umbrella over your head in the bright sun. Well, clouds do that for plants. And then the humidity shoots up and they absorb this moisture through their foliage and through their roots. They're going, oh, it's shaded and it's more humid. I just feel better about the whole thing. They'll start setting fruit for you just because it's not as hot. June is hot. If you can get plants just to live, just survive, you don't want them growing, just survive June. Then July comes, at least in the mountains of Arizona, and we get this monsoonal pattern. Even if it doesn't rain in your neighborhood, the clouds are there. You can see a rainbow or two, and plants like rainbows. It just means they're going to grow. It just means the humidity's up. They actually can't see, but they do like rainbows because it just means humidity's up and there's storms going around. It's a good thing. So I noticed that with my tomatillos, they were growing, but they weren't producing. Loaded with flowers, not a single fruit. I've had over an inch of rain in my yards already. And I looked underneath the foliage and there are just dozens and dozens, probably more than that. I was afraid to look how many. There's going to be too many tomatillos coming off two plants. I've got them in a container, a great big square oxblood red container. It was half art, half crop rotation, half, let's see if I can grow these. I just put this as a big plant. They're big. Tomatillos are big plants like tomatoes, and these are big pots. And so I'm now second guessing myself going, maybe I should have only planted one, but I'm committed now. I've got two and they're loaded. So I've got tomato cages on it. It's a big enough pot to have two tomato cages inside this pot and still look proportionate. It's beautiful. I mean, it is a piece of art. You look at it and go, God, I am such a gardener. Oh my gosh. I'm sorry. Pat myself on the back, feel pretty good. I can't wait till I pick my first tomatillo. We're salsa gardeners. So we love pico de gallo. And so fresh, right out of the garden, peppers, onions, cilantro, just tomatillos. That mixture, my mouth just watered thinking about it. It's just it's the taste of summer at the Lain Casa. We just like it. Have a little margarita with you. Just kind of like makes everything go down well. And so that's probably why your plants haven't produced as many fruits on the plant as you wanted. I predict if you could just fertilize them. In fact, for the customers, my friends that come in and I've helped them out, I said, here's some flower power. It's a liquid fertilizer. It's 48% phosphorus. It's as high as I could go and still keep the phosphorus in liquid form, which means the plant could just absorb it like right now. So you can give it some flower power right now, and it's cooler. I guarantee within a week, you're going to start to see more flowers and more fruit setting on those plants, those two combos. And so I'm hitting mine right now with Flower Power, probably weekly, a little more than we say every other week. But you know what? I'm going to juice them. I'm going to keep them going. I've had some good rain in the backyard. I think the rain washes some of that stuff out. So I'm just kind of, until I see some fruit really forming. So my tomatoes are really coming on. The squash is really coming. Oh my gosh, the squash. I think you could feed an army just with a zucchini plant. It's going like great. Peppers. I picked a peck of peppers this week. I don't know how much a peck is, but it's fun to say out loud over the airwaves. But still, picked a lot of peppers, serranos, jalapenos, and I've got a columnar sweet pepper, like a miniature bell pepper. Oh, just eat them right out of the garden. It's just so good. And so things are starting to happen. I would say also, for you folks that are flower growers, I'm basically a flower grower. I have some vegetables, but that's not my primary thing. You can tell, even my tomatillos, I used them as art. I'm thinking outside the box. It's that artistry thing. That's what flowers, the fragrance, the color, the textures, the heights. There's just a lot going on with flowers. I'm a flower grower. I love cut flowers. There's always flowers inside, year round, outside. There's always flowers. And so I like flowers. And so most of my things are flowers. So I had one lantana that I'd planted. And I love summer. Lantanas in summer just are so great because they love the heat. You can't kill them. I mean, hummingbirds and butterflies love them. They got everything going on for them. And so I had this one, I should know better. I had one lantana. It was kind of in this beautiful copper pot. The container is a piece of art. And it just wasn't filling in. Wasn't growing fast enough. And Lisa looks at me. Lisa goes, "Why don't you just go get two more and put them in there and make it full now?" And I went, "Yeah, why don't I do that? Why? I own a garden center, for goodness sakes. I have a radio show. What am I doing? Why don't I just take two more? Why don't I spend $20 and just have it over the top, extra, like right now finish?" And the best advice Lisa's given me or questioned me to do. So I fill it in, and this week I can't see the soil. I'm giving you permission. If you've been waiting, you can still see the soil in your containers, your raised beds, and they haven't filled in the way you wanted. You know what? Maybe it's time to spend $5 and get another Pinta or a Zinnia or a Passion Vine and just fill in. By this point, the containers should look full and mature. They should not be still filling out. So I'm giving you permission to buy a couple more plants. You still got them at the garden center. It's the summer mix. So we still have a few geraniums. We get marigolds all the time. But now we also have some of the newer heat-loving things like the lantanas, the pintas, the mandavillas. These things love the heat. And so go ahead and fill them off. You should not be in the backyard going, I wonder when those are finally going to fill in. Well, I can tell you, they're finally going to fill in like right before frost. It'll be October, and our frost comes at the, sorry about that. I got an alarm going off. Hopefully you didn't hear that over the airwaves. This is live radio. Here we go. So anyway, so it's permission. Go ahead and fill in, get a few extra plants. It'll be a game changer, and you will be delighted that you did it because you'll be looking back on, God, that goofy guy on the radio, I like what he said. And God, I feel so much better about my gardens. And you will have more butterflies and hummingbirds and all that other stuff that comes with flowers. I would say the same thing with your herb gardens. Your herbs should be full and glorious. If you're having trouble with some animals, herbs help repel other rabbits and that kind of stuff that hide the scent. So just kind of some things. It's still garden season. Don't wait for things to finally start happening. They should be actively growing in full right now. And so go ahead and fill them in. You're watering things. You folks that have had some monsoon rains, don't throttle back on the irrigation yet. Keep the water going until we get enough rain to hydrate all the ground. And then I'll start scaling back. Right now I'm watering my containers once a day in the morning. My trees and shrubs once a week in the morning. My blooming things out in the yard about, every 2 to 3 days. I think every 3 days in the morning. And so I'm holding off on that. I'm going to let the nature resaturate my soil, and then I'll dial back the irrigation too. And I'll just try to go one extra day between irrigation cycles. Anyway, we've got a lot in store. I'll go more into that, but we've got a lot in store this week on the Mountain Garden. We got Lisa Lain coming in with your garden questions right after this.
Wondering why the grass is always greener on the other side? Well, it's probably because your neighbor used the all-purpose fertilizer from Water's Garden Center. Monsoon is right around the corner, and it's the perfect time to feed your plants. Water's all-purpose fertilizer is the only organic made especially for Arizona mountain soils. Don't buy a bunch of different fertilizer for your flowers, veggies, trees, or grass. This one does it all. The plants on your side will be happier, healthier, well, greener. Safe, natural, organic. Water's Garden Center in Prescott.
You're listening to Garden Master Ken Lain, owner of Water's Garden Center in Prescott. Join his daily podcast for timely garden advice seasonally right for the gardens. Ken can be found throughout the week at Water's Garden Center in Prescott or through his website at top10gardener.com. You're listening to Garden Master Ken Lain and the Top 10 Gardener podcast. Welcome to the Top 10 Garden Show.
And back with Lisa Lain in the studio. She comes each week with your garden questions. Just what are your neighbors talking about? Lisa kind of inspires us, gets us on the right direction so we don't make a mistake. And sometimes we learn from our neighbors.
Oh, yeah.
That's what gardening's all about. You share that. That's why it's so social. So welcome to the studio, Lisa.
Thank you.
So how is your garden life? How are your gardens?
Oh, my gardens. Needing lots of water.
Well, that's true. Oh my goodness. It's giving the drip irrigation. I had to tune it up and tune it up. And still, it's just kind of making sure it doesn't fail.
It's hard when it's windy and dry and hot. Boy, things let you know right away if they're not getting enough water. If you're paying attention at all, they'll tell you.
That's right. They will. And then we're planning on going on a quick vacation at the end of the month. And so you kind of want things kind of on autopilot. So you kind of adjust, see how it's doing, adjust, and then pray for rain while we're gone. So let that first monsoon hit.
Definitely.
So what kind of garden questions do we have?
So lots of questions, lots of stuff going on out there. Gail in Chino has a peach tree, started out looking really good, lots of fruit. She was thrilled with it. But lately the fruit is dropping. And the fruit that's on there still is just doesn't seem to be growing. It's just kind of keeping that same size to it. What's going on?
June or Gail, we call that. It doesn't matter if it's Chino, Camp Verde, Prescott Valley, it's Dewey, it's all the same. And again, we're 3 weeks late this year. So normally this phenomena happens in June. We call it June drop. Okay, that's the first week in July. This question probably came July 30th or June 30th or something, but it's called June drop. And what happens is the fruit has formed a lot of fruit last spring. So it flowered, pollinated, set fruit. And now the roots are trying to keep up with the fruit production. So the fruit is taking the moisture coming up from the roots. And so if there's too many fruits to keep up with this, it'll drop the weaker ones. So we call it June drop. It's trying to balance its fruit load out for the amount of moisture and irrigation you've got. Some things to watch for though. If your plant gets stressed out because of water at all, it will naturally sacrifice the fruit. It will shed the fruit because the mother plant wants to keep itself alive first and foremost. Then it will try to reproduce through the seed from your peaches. It goes for plums, apricots, nectarines, apples, pears. They're all the same. So make sure you're watering. I would say supplement, Gail, supplement water. That's a theme going on with this show. It's been hot and windy. Maybe add to your drip irrigation or run. If you're doing it by hand, maybe do it twice in a week instead of once. Make sure that plant doesn't go dry, especially while it has fruits on it. So June drop is normal. As soon as it adjusts, it will take all of that energy and start forcing it into the remaining fruits. And so you'll see them plump up pretty quickly. That goes for apples. You might even want to hand prune your apples and pears. They tend to come out in clusters of 3, 4, 5 apples, and there's no way that branch can support 5 fruits. Take off 2 or 3 of the weakest ones, leave 1 or 2, so the plant can now adjust and use the remaining moisture and food that it's got for those remaining fruits. You get a nicer, bigger fruit. So Gail, June drop in July. That's what's going on. See us for more.
And you are right. Everything is late this year. Right, about 3 weeks late. So definitely.
I didn't hear the late part. What was the first part of that?
I said everything's running late.
No, before that.
Oh, you are right.
I am right. I am right. That's good. I like that.
I said it once. I don't need to say it again for the next 10 years. So we're good.
Okay.
All right. Tom in Prescott said, I heard you say, watch out for spider mites. Wants to know what is a spider mite? What does it actually look like? And what kind of things are you looking for?
Tom, first and foremost, thank you for tuning in, listening. That's great. Attentive ear. But if you see spider webs on your plants, it's not a spider. It's spider mites. And I'm seeing them on everything. I saw them last week. I mentioned it in passing. We probably ought to go into it a little deeper. So if you see spider webs or a webbing, like a floating web on top of your foliage, it can be on anything from roses to junipers, Alberta spruce. I've seen them on ivy. I've seen them on my flowers. It's ridiculous this year. I think it's because it went from cool to hot, and all of a sudden, they'll be here until it rains real hard. They don't like moisture. They like hot and dry, and that's where spider mites thrive. And that's what we have right now. Until we get our first rain, 2 or 3 weeks, it's going to be something to watch. If you see a webbing, just get a spray to kill them. So you've got spider mites. You can't see them. They're microscopic. Sometimes you can tap a branch and the dust will move. They're actually smaller than thrip, which is a spring phenomenon. We call that one no-see-ums, and spider mites are smaller than those. And so you're not going to see spider mite, but you'll see the damage. You've got a scarifying mouth part. They tend to scrape the tissue off of those needles of, let's say I had a yew in the shady areas of my gardens. It was there. They'll scrape the bottom tissue of a rose. And so it looks skeletonized. They got onto my cucumbers. And so you're seeing this speckled yellow. Is it yellowing? Is it tissue? What's going on? It looks weird. Spider mites. Spray them with, we got a couple things, in and out, a spray. We've got sayonara. It's not just soap and water. That's not going to phase them. You got to get to something a little stronger. You don't have to go as strong as malathion. I mean, death, toxic waste in a bottle, but you got to go stronger than, let's say, a neem oil, something inert. So come and see us, Tom. We can guide you. This is serious. If you see webbing, if you don't worry about it.
But if they're looking funky, take a good look at it. Maybe something is going on.
Sometimes you don't see the web. Sometimes, let's say on Alberta spruce, they get down inside the spruce. This is a cute little spruce. It's a dwarf. They get down inside, and so you don't really see the spruce until it's too late. Sometimes on big spruce trees, or not spruce, big junipers, let's say Spartan junipers, their natural diet is the native junipers. So they just migrate over to other things. They go, I'm tired of juniper. I want to try something different. I'm going for your apple tree. So look for that. If you're not sure, take your phone out without the power on, just black screen, tap a branch. And if the dust is moving around, you've got problems. Come see us right away, because they will kill the plant. They're not messing around. They will kill it in pretty short order. So you just want to come see us. We can get you spray and mitigate it just right away. So Tom, thanks for listening. Again, thank you for listening.
All right. One more question is from Shelley in Prescott Valley. She wanted to put in a Crape myrtle tree, but hasn't been able to find any in the area. So her question is, why don't we have Crape myrtle trees here? Yeah,
you could probably find some down in Phoenix, but the good garden centers are not going to sell you one up here. What happens is, because our cold winters get so extreme so quickly, it resets Crape myrtles back to the roots. So they act more like a perennial. They'll go underground by the roots. The roots are alive, but the top growth will die off. And so then it will come back fresh every year. And it's a bush. Figs will do the same thing. Certain plants will do this. And so I could sell you a tree and it would be beautiful. It would live through the summer. And then come winter, at least maximum 1 or 2 years, it would reset down the ground. And so you just paid double what you should have for a tree that turns into a bush just by the bush. And it's because of that extreme temperature. You start to see trees down at the lower elevations where you can start to form. But even then they struggle because it's lack of humidity. They'll take the heat, but the humidity, it just go with the bush. We got several varieties out here. They're spectacular. Some with purple foliage with bright pink, red, white flowers. Go with those. You get better. Shelley, there's better choices. So anyway, come see us. We'll give you the tour of the crepe myrtles that grow in your backyard. This is Ken and Lisa Lain, the Mountain Gardeners. We'll be right back after this.
Watters Garden companion plants for July are hibiscus, maple, verbena, and crepe myrtle.
Crepe myrtle flowers are intense watermelon pink, solar reds, and LED whites that cover this heat-loving shrub.
Plant where you enjoy its beautiful multicolored bark and sinuous branches up close.
The flowers show against forest green foliage that turns red and orange in autumn.
Growing to just head height, every yard has room for at least one, and only available for summer planting here at Watters Garden Center in Prescott. You're listening to Ken Lain, aka the Top 10 Gardener. Ken can be found throughout the week in Prescott at Watters Family Garden Center. Listen daily as he answers the top 10 questions of the week, streaming on Apple, Google, Spotify, or wherever you download your podcasts. You've tuned in to the Top 10 Garden Show with garden expert Ken Lain. Join the conversation daily as he answers timely garden questions. Email Ken a question directly from your phone to his desktop through the web at wattersgardencenter.com. That's Watters with 2 T's, gardencenter.com. Or visit face-to-face throughout the week where he can be found at Watters Garden Center in Prescott. Now welcome your host, Ken Lain.
So I had mentioned at the start of the show that I am a flower gardener. If I had to describe myself, I would not be I like flowers. I like the smell, the taste. I like to play with them. You got to get intimate with them. They have personalities. They have seasonalities. There's some that look great in the spring, not in the summer. Some that look great in the summer, not in the fall. Some look great in the fall, better than any others. And so there are actually some that are evergreen. The newest one that I've fallen in love with is called Myrtle euphorbia. It's the same as gopher plant or gopher spurge. That's all that same euphorbia family. So they're all cousins of each other. So it's as hardy as that. So gopher plant or gopher spurge, the rumor is you put a gopher plant out in the gardens and it repels all the gophers. That is totally not true. That does not, the internet was totally lying to you. I don't know where they came up with that. I've personally tried that, and gophers came up right next to it. They didn't eat it, but it didn't actually keep them out of that garden. I actually had to kill the gophers. So they're an underground rat. They deserve to die, and they're eating my plants. You're out of here. And so I get go and be free over there. The second you cross the line, I can meet my hot tub, get my RV, make a home in my grill. You're eating my plants. I'm coming after you and all your kin. So that's just I might catch you and release you over there, or I might do more. I'm not sure. Depends on my mood that day. So we actually have quite a few animals here at the garden center. This fence around the garden center here at Watters is not to keep people out. Anyone can jump over a 6-foot fence. We've got locks and security cameras and all that kind of stuff to know who did that. It's really to keep the animals out. And so we get a lot of javelina, a lot of deer. If we didn't fence them, they would just jump right in. And then we get raccoons and bunnies and other things. And so there we have to trap a few of those every once in a while and then go out, release them into the forest, take them out there and just let them go. It's got to be over 2 miles away or they come right back. It's ridiculous. So my flowers, let's go back to flowers. Flowers, you can get them to rebloom again and again. And here's how you do it. So I've been taking my yarrows, have been in bloom for, month to almost 2 months. They're now finally starting to fade. Well, I've got family reunions at our house this year in Prescott. Families are coming in from all over, all the kids and their kids are all coming. And so I want the yard to look good. And so I've cut back my yarrows. I hedged them back. I gave them I actually fertilized everything in the yard with 744 all-purpose plant food. But the blooming things, in addition to that, I also give them super phosphate. Superphosphate is 0, 18, 0, all that middle number. That's what forces flowers. And so if I'm deadheading, I just took a shear, took some hedgers, hedged back just the flowers, not the foliage of my yarrows, just the flowers, and then fertilized them, and then gave them some superphosphate. Pray for rain. Some rain comes, boy, they'll really go to town. If not, you can water them real quick. And they will be in bloom within just a few weeks. They'll come right back into flower. Your meadow sages do the same thing. This beautiful short wildflower, a mounding, sagey, kind of smelling plant with purple spiky flowers. They've been in bloom for forever. I mean, for 2 months or more. They finally stopped. Prune them back. Do the same thing. Superphosphate and all-purpose plant food, and just kind of make them go, and they will come right back into bloom. Jupiter's beard, or what's the ceanothus? What's botanical? Anyway, Jupiter's beard, a native plant, kind of like euphorbia. I mentioned that one. We're going back there. Hold on. That comes right back into bloom within 2 weeks. You'll start to see flowers again. So deadheading or pinching the spent flowers off, and then fertilizing as the rain comes. That's the insider secret. I mentioned my new favorite perennial, euphorbia. So Merlot euphorbia. We've had for years a gopher plant. It's kind of boring. It's a good native drought hardy thing. Okay, got it. And it's pretty. It looks prehistoric, spiky leaves, yellow flowers. Then we had rainbow ascot euphorbia. That was the latest introduction. Introduced that 3 or 4 years ago. It's this bright lime green, striking, hardy, perennial flower that gets about knee high, kind of vase shaped with this funky Dr. Seuss flower. It's very pretty. Well, the cousin to that looks just like rainbow ascot, but now it's purple. So now we got a yellow one, or gold, and we've got purple. Wow, they look great together. And it's one of the few evergreens. All those euphorbia families, they're evergreen. So they keep their foliage right through winter. They're perennial, but they don't die back to the ground, then come back fresh from the ground. They actually stay up and just up there, just right up there in the sun, the more beautiful they get. I'd say they need at least 4 to 5 hours of sun, personal experience, or more. But euphorbias, rainbow ascot, gopher spurge, and then look at the Merlot euphorbia. Oh, you'd be happy with that. It goes in that. It's rock gardens, salvias, the sedums, those kinds of. It goes like that. Got more for you, but we got Lisa Lain coming in right after this.
Wondering why the grass is always greener on the other side? Well, it's probably because your neighbor used the all-purpose fertilizer from Water's Garden Center. Monsoon is right around the corner, and it's the perfect time to feed your plants. Water's all-purpose fertilizer is the only organic made especially for Arizona mountain soils. Don't buy a bunch of different fertilizer for your flowers, veggies, trees, or grass. This one does it all. The plants on your side will be happier, healthier, well, greener. Safe, natural, organic. Water's Garden Center in Prescott.
The Top 10 Gardener, your source for timely garden advice, seasonally correct for the garden, guaranteed to make a difference in your yard this season. You've tuned in to the Top 10 Gardener with garden expert Ken Lain. Join him daily as he answers timely garden questions that are sure to make a difference in your gardens. Now welcome your host, Ken Lain.
And back in the studio is my favorite gal, my vacation buddy, my travel beauty, my
If you can't tell, we're going on a vacation.
yeah, we are. We're getting ready. Spring season, the crazy rush is over. The crew's got this. We're going on vacation.
You're already on vacation. You have left.
Mm-hmm. For me, it's all the deadlines you got to get, radio content and written stuff out and ads and all that stuff. Everyone wants their stuff, even though you're not. It's part of small business. If you're not there, you still got to do the work. If you are there, you got to do the work. If your team is there, you have to do that work. It's just part of it, which I like.
But we're not complaining.
We are. No, I like it.
all.
I wouldn't think of it. You never get bored as a small business owner because there's always stuff to do. Everyone thinks, oh, I want to do what I want to do. And I love plants. It's my thing. I love if I get really stressed out over taxes or accountants or shopping insurance or workman's comp stuff. If I get stressed, I go help customers with plants. It's therapeutic for me. But if you don't do the insurance and you don't do the taxes, you lose it all. So you got to be good at all of these things, hiring the right people, training, motivating, culture, and you have to love the thing that you love to do.
True.
So you never get bored.
True. And you enjoy your vacations.
I do enjoy my vacation. Live hard, work hard, play hard.
Yeah, definitely.
So what do you got for us? You're inspiring us this week with some sort of new thing that's uniquely yours.
Well, no pressure.
No pressure. They've all tuned in right now just for this segment.
So this week, because it's hot out there, boy howdy, the winds are blowing. So I hang out in the shadier sections of the garden center while it's this hot.
Yeah.
So I was out underneath the shade cloth where we keep our hydrangeas and our yews and our hollies. And those things that they like their shade. And we in the all Quad City area, especially in some of these older homes, older landscapes, there's definitely areas that are very shady.
Every house has a shady area, a patio, a north side. I mean, shade is 6 hours or less of sun. Every yard is one of those places. Just as it matures, the trees grow up, you get more and more. And the yard actually changes as it matures. Definitely. Trees are the changers.
So anyways, I was hanging out in the shade area and I noticed we have a lot of panicle hydrangeas.
Oh, aren't they pretty? Yeah.
Which are gorgeous. So I was checking them out because we've never really carried them much before. We carry the pom-pom ones that have the pinks and the blues and the purples, and they have that big round flower to them. So I was checking out the panicles, which actually have a more pointed flower to them, an elongated bloom with a point to it. And they were mostly blooming white. So I was like, well, why do we have all these white hydrangeas? So I started looking at it, educating myself on them. So a lot of them start out white. As they first bloom, they're white. And then as that bloom matures, it changes colors.
Yeah.
So some really cool ones. We have the berry white.
Berry white.
Berry white. What a cool name, right? So it starts out white, then it kind of goes pink, then it goes dark pink, and then it goes red at the very end. So I thought, how cool is that to get that change of flower through there? We have one called Strawberry Sundae that starts out white and goes to a pink along there.
Like a strawberry pink? Yeah. Maybe like a strawberry sundae.
There's one called Firelight, which there again starts out white and then moves to a very vivid red at the end. So I thought, how cool is that? Instead of having just like one color bloom out there in your yard, you get to watch it change colors. So, but definitely a shade plant. It's going to want that, especially that afternoon shade, which is so intense here. We kind of need protection from that. But if you have the right spot, how fun to try one of those.
They're easy to grow. In the right spot, easy to grow. And they come back year after year, perennial. Right. So they'll take our water, our sun, they take our growing environment, but you can't just throw them out there. The Midwest folks, this is going to be difficult for you because you're used to Midwest stuff. You just chuck them right out there in full sun and they're fine. Not here. Canadians, full sun, not here. It's not the cold. It's the heat and dry. That combo of sun gets the leaves start to burn. Is what happens. So they won't bloom very long. It's they kind of fade out really quick. And so, but in the shade, they do their thing really well.
Seems like they would grow well in containers.
Yep.
Yeah. So definitely good.
You saw the one on our back patio. It's going into bloom right now. So it's right by the gardenia. Yeah, it's just starting to go. Had its first bloom this week. So it's been sitting there dormant. I thought it died because it's just everything's late. And then it started to leaf and it's growing. Here we go. And as soon as it starts leafing, a hydrangea starts to bloom. It wants to bloom, but it hibernated underground. Now it's coming back. And so it's pretty.
I'll have to check it out. Some of the other things that definitely love that summer heat bloom. So if you don't have a shady spot, but you have a sunny hot spot, there's definitely things you can put in. Crepe myrtles do very well in that kind of condition. And we have a lot of really cool crepe myrtles. We have a Centennial Spirit, which is kind of a dark pink one, really pretty. Almost has like a little ruffly bloom to it. We have one called Dynamite Red, Double Dynamite Red.
Double Dynamite, not just Dynamite.
It's supposed to be a repeat bloomer.
Yeah.
So, but gorgeous red color. Sometimes reds are more orange or more pink. This one's red.
So is it watermelon red or?
No, it's red.
Red. Oh, yeah. Good.
Yeah, not watermelon red. We have Zuni, which is kind of classic. A lavender one. Yeah. And we have some Pecos, which is another red. So probably, I would say 6 different varieties out there. Those
are just the ones that are blooming. So I've got some others just came in that are about to bloom.
We have one, Moonlight, Midnight, one of those. It has real dark leaves to it, but the blossoms are white. So just a really cool contrast out there to have the dark leaves and the white blooms. So that's a really good one to check out.
This is your time. If you're planting crepe myrtles, they prefer to be planted while the soil is very warm. They want to be warm. They don't like spring planting with cool roots. They just sit there and they wait it out. They're not leafing. You swear they're dead. And then summer comes, they're going, okay, my time to shine. All that spring stuff. They're stressed out because of the heat. So the lilacs, forsythia, and the quince are all done. They're not going to bloom. It's hot. But the crepe myrtles they celebrate the smoke bush. They celebrate that. Butterfly bush. Yeah. They celebrate that.
Butterfly bush. That's another one. Get a lot of bloom in the summer off of, a lot of color. That's when we probably have another 4 or 5 different varieties from the dark.
I like the
purple,
red one. Yeah.
Blues. So that's definitely a good one for those hot spots out in your yard. We also have a lot of rows of Sharon. So most of them get pretty big and they love the heat, and most of them are starting to bloom or in full bloom
around town. They're in bloom around town. If you see a real tall shrub just above head height and covered in flowers, that is a rose of Sharon hibiscus. Right. It's the hardy variety of hibiscus that grows up here.
And on that, we also have some Mashutos.
Ooh, really? So they came in.
2 different varieties of Mashutos, a pink one and a red one. So Mashutos are those, they go completely dormant in the wintertime, and you're thinking, oh, there's nothing there. But they come back up in the spring, and they have that huge,
it's bigger than your hand,
huge blossom on. Very, very pretty, kind of like that Hawaiian or very tropical blossom that you kind of think of.
Mashutos hibiscus. It's a cousin of the Rose of Sharon hibiscus. This one's on steroids. The Rose of Sharon is a shrub. It comes back from the stems. So it's like a lilac, keeps coming, gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And Mashutos always resets down underground and then comes back and grows about hip high and wide. Every year, it's like tremendous grower. It really grows fast. And then it starts to set the flowers from now through. For you Southern folks, another name's called Confederate rose. It goes by a couple different common names, but the actual Latin is Mashutos hibiscus. If you want something fun, different, unusual in your gardens, that's the one you want. And you can only find them at garden centers now because this is when they show up.
And we don't get a ton of them.
Nope.
We get a certain amount. When they're gone. So what else do we have? Oh, we have some beautiful Caryopteris in right now, which is, what's the other name?
False spirea.
Yep. It's a great pollinator plant. If you're looking to put something by your garden to really help bring in those pollinators, it's a terrific plant for that.
That one, I think, Caryopteris is less weedy. It looks like a Russian sage, only with more shapely and less weedy. Yeah. And I think it blooms just as well or better. So I think it's a better replacement than Russian sage. Anyway, thank you, Lisa. Great suggestions for summer plants you can plant now and enjoy for the rest of the year. Be right back.
Water's Garden companion plants for July are hibiscus, maple, verbena, and crepe myrtle.
Crepe myrtle flowers are intense watermelon pink, solar reds, and LED whites that cover this heat-loving shrub.
Plant where you enjoy its beautiful multicolored bark and sinuous branches up close.
The flowers show against forest green foliage that turns red and orange in autumn.
Growing to just head height, every yard has room for at least one, and only available for summer planting here at Water's Garden Center in Prescott. You're listening to garden expert Ken Lain, owner of Waters Garden Center in Prescott. Look for more tips, tricks, and garden shortcuts through Ken's website. Additional shows of this podcast, read his weekly garden column, or follow him on Facebook, Instagram at watersgardencenter.com. That's Waters with 2 T's, gardencenter.com. Welcome to the Top 10 Garden Show with Ken Lain. Listen to Ken's tips, tricks, and garden shortcuts guaranteed to make your gardens more beautiful than ever this year. Now welcome your host, Ken Lain.
So it is summer. It's hot. It's gusty. And when there are storms, they can be violent. There can be hail. It's the mountains. It's high altitude gardening. It's 4 seasons, but it can be, you get some definite swings. So in the spring, it's mainly going to be windy and dry. I mean, it's like 10% humidity. Oh my gosh. It's hard to grow things because the plants have brand new foliage. You get this prevailing southwest wind that comes out of the southwest. It's got 10% humidity. It zaps the life out of plants. And it culminates in June when it's like 95 in the 90s, no matter where you are in what altitude, we get in the 90s. And then you folks in the lower areas, maybe even 100, you Sedonas, Camp Verdes, and then it cools off in the evening. But then the rains come, and the monsoons are a game changer. And so the wind stops, that breeze. Yes, it can be gusty. It can be windy. It's that storm as that thunder cell dumps on you. You get close to it, you feel it. But it's that prevailing southwest dry wind. We don't have that. You've got humidity goes up, and plants just thrive. And then the best season of all, fall. So September, October, November, really. It's just beautiful. And so the temperatures are nice. The soil is warm. There's the violent hail storms are done. And then winter. Those are your 4 seasons. And winter here, it's mild as mild. Yes, it's winter, but it's mild. And so it can dip real cold at night, but then it warms back up during the day, which makes it so nice, so pleasant. So you can go walk the forest. You can go enjoy the outdoors, because you can even garden year round here because it's so mild. And so we don't get the heat of Phoenix in summer. So Phoenix, you don't garden in this. I mean, you melt if you go out there. It's 100 degrees at midnight. Who in their right mind lives that close to the sun? My goodness, it's just too miserable. Flagstaff. I mean, yes, it's God's country, but man, it gets cold up there and it doesn't warm up during the day, but you get to ski. But I'd rather live down here where actual like sane people live, where all the seasons are mild. There are no extremes. I can go ski if I want. It's just 2 hours away. I can go golf in the winter if I want. It's just right down the hill. This is the best place. So your plants thrive with that. This is also when some of the best summer plants show up at the garden center. And everything comes in bigger now. So they've been flushing out new growth all spring. Now they've hardened off and now they're flowering. And so the biggest, boldest Crape myrtles show up now. And they're so full. In the spring they show up, but they're not in bloom and they're just still wimpy. They haven't grown much. But then the summer comes and this is when they shine. So they've grown on, they've got an extra foot of height and covered in fluorescent colored flowers. This is when your Rose of Sharon's. I don't just have one variety like I had in spring and it wasn't in bloom, wasn't very inspiring. Now I've got 6 different colors, doubles, single flowers, blues, whites, pinks, you got every color you could think of in every size, and they're all in bloom right now. So they're inspiring. Put those on end caps, go, wow, what is that? Well, it's a hibiscus. I didn't know hibiscus grew here. That one does. It's a hardy hibiscus. It grows up at this altitude, Rose of Sharon. And so this is when you see the best of the best summer bloomers now. And these summer bloomers, they'll bloom now through autumn. So they're going to go till easily September. They just, for the next couple of months, they're going to keep on blooming. And so you get to see a seasonality. The summer season is at show right now. Same with the perennial flowers, the lilies, daylilies, the balloon flowers, I've got a new delivery of Mexican primrose. It's beautiful. They're gorgeous. I had some wimpy ones earlier and they weren't in bloom. Now it's this ground cover that's got pink flowers, the size of silver dollars, and they're covered and they love the heat. Where nothing else will grow, Mexican primrose will thrive. Doesn't like the shade, likes the sun. More sun, hotter, the better. Well, this is when they really do shine in the gardens. You'll see them all around town and at the garden center because the crops just, they like this kind of temperature swing. They like this. This is their time to shine. Shasta daisies. Oh my gosh, the best. They came in nice a month ago. They just keep getting nicer and fuller and taller and covered in this white flower that just butterflies just love. And so this is your time when you see more perennials, fuller, and they're all in bloom. So they're all inspiring. And so it's a good time to shop, and it's okay to plant them. You folks from Phoenix, this is hard for you. You're not in Phoenix anymore, Toto. This is up in we're up in God's country where it's cool. We don't get 110, 120, 121. Phoenix, you don't garden in the summer. Up here, you do. It's almost a better planting time because the ground is warm. My yards, we've had over an inch of rain already, so the ground is starting to be hydrated. And you've got the humidity is up, the cloud cover's over because the monsoon rains. It's a great time to plant. If you're doing big trees, if you need screening, if you want a big Arizona cypress, a new spruce tree, pine trees, now is a great time because they'll actually root out and they'll start forming buds. With evergreens or conifers, the needled evergreens. Really, most of those, you only get one shot in the spring of growing new growth. That's it. They only grow once, and whatever you grow in, whatever elongates in the spring, that's all you get for the year. Now they'll get chubbier, they'll harden up. There's some other things happening, but the way evergreens work, they flush with new candle growth or new branches coming out. And then right after that, the roots mirror that and go into the surrounding soil. And then it kind of sits there and just looks majestic, looks glorious. And so if you need an evergreen to grow, now's a great time to plant those. If you need a privacy screen, whether it's evergreen like junipers, Arizona cypress, or your bigger shrubs like red tip botania, cotoneasters, Elaeagnus, great native evergreen plant, gets well over head high. It's just get up to size, never water it again. It's a great plant, so easy to care for. Now's the time to plant those. And they're great privacy screens. And so now's the time to be putting those in. Don't you Phoenix folks think, oh, nope, it's too hot. I can't garden. Nope, I've never gardened in July before because it's just too hot. Well, up here, this is when you do garden. This is the best time to plant that. And so shade trees, boy, if you're putting a new aspen or maple or locust, there's a golden locust that the new growth has come out bright yellow or golden color. That's the name, golden locust. That just, it's so airy and light. It's got filtered light. Super, super drought hardy, perfect for the high altitude, drier climates in the landscape. This is when you want to plant those. And then the new growth always comes out yellow. Then it greens up, kind of stays green. So there's always this, it's always got like this, it's like a beautiful woman go to the salon getting hair, the tips dyed. I'm such a man. I don't even know how to describe getting your hair done. I'm embarrassing myself, but it looks like beautiful highlights on the tree all the time. And then the fall color is also a beautiful gold again. It goes back to that original color, and then it's deciduous. The beautiful thing about the golden locust is as your grandparents had locusts because they're just bulletproof. You can't kill them. They take the wind. They get a bad rap in the Midwest because the ice can tear them up. But here we don't get ice storms. We get some snowstorm, but no ice. No, there's no 1 inch thick ice covering plants so they break and collapse. We don't have that. So they thrive here. So it's a great plant. And so, but your grandparents had them, they had huge thorns. It's like 1 inch, like you're going to crucify someone, thorns. It was a nasty, nasty plant. Well, we figured out how to breed that out of it. So they no longer we've genetically hybridized them. We keep pollinating until we get this perfect specimen. Then we take cuttings off that and root that cutting out. So we get an exact clone of that plant and grow that out for like 10 years. Then they come to the garden center. So they no longer have thorns in them. So golden or honey locust is another name. It's a great plant. I went on too long about locusts, just get excited about them. But there's maples, crab apples, red buds. There's all kinds of trees, apples, cherries. I've got beautiful selection of cherries. Rainier cherry. You like that beautiful golden sweet melt in your mouth cherry. We've got those, and you can plant those now, and you will have cherries next spring by planting your tree right now. Anyway, we got more for you, but got to take a quick break. Be right back.
Wondering why the grass is always greener on the other side? Well, it's probably because your neighbor used the all-purpose fertilizer from Water's Garden Center. Monsoon is right around the corner, and it's the perfect time to feed your plants. Water's all-purpose fertilizer is the only organic made especially for Arizona mountain soils. Don't buy a bunch of different fertilizer for your flowers, veggies, trees, or grass. This one does it all. The plants on your side will be happier, healthier, well, greener. Safe, natural, organic. Water's Garden Center in Prescott.
You're listening to garden expert Ken Lain. He can be found throughout the week at Water's Garden Center in Prescott. Thanks for tuning in to the Top 10 Garden Show. You've tuned in to the Top 10 Gardener with garden expert Ken Lain. Join him daily as he answers timely garden questions that are sure to make a difference in your gardens. Now welcome your host, Ken Lain.
I have to tell you, one of the joys for me as a entrepreneur, as a small business owner, and we put on a big show, but really we're just maybe 30 employees. We've been here for 62 years. We're second generation owners. Lisa and I have owned the business for 22 years, 100%. We had some ownership before that. Her parents ran it for 40 plus years before her. And so it's just been in the family. Well, that's good. Okay, everyone says that. To have that longevity is unusual. To see businesses pass from generation to generation, there's like a 30% of all companies die in the first 10, 20 years just without passing it on. And then like 60% fail with the second generation. And the math even gets worse with the third generation, fourth generation. So to see multi-generational company with the same owners, very unusual. Different owners, yes. Same owners, same ownership, family owns it. Very, very rare, actually. Well, that's good. That's pride. It makes myself feel good. That's good for family, around the 4th of July barbecue pit. It's good to talk about. But really, the joy is when you see your kids coming up and you can see them thrive, to shine, to really use their giftedness that God's created in them to give back to the community. So customers actually see that and want to, and just connect. That's a joy. I enjoy doing that. And then I really enjoy seeing my kids do that. And they've all worked in the business. They all know what customer service, they understand what a waiter, waitress, servers, they understand what it means to help others, hospitality, to be hospitable, to make people feel better about themselves when they leave than when they came in. That there's an art to that. It can be learned, but it really helps when you're raised in a business that does that. Well, a hats off, a hurrah for my kids. Mackenzie Lain is actually the retailer of the year for the garden center business. This is the garden centers, 18,000 garden centers. And we put our staff up for our managers, owners, GMs, that kind of stuff. And she's the general manager of Water's Garden Center. She's a younger manager than the industry standard because she was raised in the business. She's got more experience than most of them combined, but she's got that kind of richness to her. And then she was kind of hats off because she got the nod for retailer of the year. Actually, young retailer. For retailer of the year that's under 40, which, when did all of us get our start? We had our first big jobs when we were in our 30s to late 20s, 30s. You start really hitting your stride and figuring out who you are and what you're good at and how to get back and make a difference. Well, she's hit that stride. And so she was just, Mackenzie, proud of you, kid. You did good. We'll fly back next Friday That's a week. Next weekend we'll be in Columbus, Ohio, receiving the award and seeing how we do. So I appreciate Signals AZ, Prescott E-News, the news outlets loved the story. You got to talk about yourself, right? You got to share the news with your friends, your community. You got to let people know. And so I wrote a press release, and they all picked it up, full page, just full picture. I was almost embarrassed. Mackenzie's face is right there, not like a far distance one. Here she is, Retailer of the Year. So Mackenzie Lain, Retailer of the Year. Proud of you, kid. Just glad to go to work with you. You're fun to be around, not just in family settings, but also in work settings. And you're making a difference in your community, in your company, in your community, but also nationally. If a good company is good at what they do, they should be able to give back and make a difference to all of their peers, not just in their community. And so she's doing that. Proud of you, kid.
Water's Garden companion plants for July are hibiscus, maple, verbena, and crepe myrtle.
Crepe myrtle flowers are intense watermelon pink, solar reds, and LED whites that cover this heat-loving shrub.
Plant where you enjoy its beautiful multicolored bark and sinuous branches up close.
The flowers show against forest green foliage that turns red and orange in autumn.
Growing to just head height, every yard has room for at least one, and only available for summer planting here at Water's Garden Center in Prescott. If you want a more fruitful garden, increased success in landscape that just feels better, then tune in daily to the Top 10 Garden Podcast. Years of tips, tricks, and garden shortcuts are guaranteed to make your gardens nicer than ever. Listen to this podcast or read Ken's weekly garden column by visiting watersgardencenter.com. That's Waters with 2 T's, gardencenter.com. Thanks for tuning in.